introduce to you the Honorable Dov Hikind.
Thank you. Let me just, first of all, it warms my heart to see each and every one of you here. Those who went through the terrible tragedy of the Holocaust, to see the young people who are our future. I can tell you that the 6 million, they are aware, and when we come out the way we do today to remember, this is something that Hashem loves. So I appreciate everyone being here today. Let me just get some things out of the way that, you know, after this is over, I don't want to say, oh my God, I missed mentioning this one or that one. But number one, I want to recognize the Executive Vice President. He is the key player in the Claims Conference, Greg Schneider, for being here today with us. I also want to thank, if you're going to give me any credit for what is happening here today, the real credit, not that we didn't do work, but the real credit is the dedication, devotion, the love that Rising Horowitz has for the entire community. What Nachas does every single day in trying to make a difference is something that can be emulated and should be emulated by everyone. Let me mention some of the elected officials that are already here. My very, very good friend for many years, Councilmember Matthew Eugene, right here in front. And I also, right to my left, we have Councilmember Chaim Deitch and Senator Simcha Feldman. And we'll recognize other people throughout the program. Today, you know, the idea for today is to remember, and also a concept that's very, very important in Judaism, and that is hakaras hatov, recognizing the good that other people have done. And we are going to recognize a diverse group of individuals representing those that during the period of the Holocaust tried to help Jews and actually saved many Jews. But the truth is, and we always have to face the truth, that during the period, the terrible tragedy, the torture, the murder, or the terrible things that befell the Jewish people, the fact is that few countries, few nations of the world, and few people really cared about the Jewish people. No one was really available. The doors of most countries of America, in terms of Jews being able to come here so they would live, the doors were closed. And one of the things that we have learned through the years, it wasn't so clear a long time ago. It has become very clear through many books and the archives that have been opened up. From David Wyman's book, The Abandonment of the Jews, and one of the first books that I read when I was 18 years old or 17 years old, goes back a number of years ago, While 6 Million Died by Arthur Morse. And there's so many other books, documents that show that sometimes the people we think are our friends, even in Congress, even presidents sometimes, today we know better, unfortunately, that nobody wanted Jews. No one. You know, maybe a few Jews here or there, but the doors were closed for us, and that is the reality of life, unfortunately. And I also have to share with you, as we will move on through the program and listen to our very special guest who arrived just in the last hours from Israel, from Jerusalem. There's one person that I especially miss today, because she would be here. She would be sitting right here. And it's from her that I really listened all of my years about what she went through. You know, it's not easy growing up and trying to understand when your mother is talking to you about going to Auschwitz. Going to Auschwitz in 1944. And the stories she told us. Going to Auschwitz with her mother. And the line they were on. And the nephews and nieces that were on the same line. And how her mother went straight to the gas chamber. This is my upbringing. This is what I listened to. All the stories of our people. So today we're going to recognize some of those who made a difference, because very few people cared. Even Jews in America, even leaders of the Jewish community in America. There were as many Jews in America during the Holocaust as there are today. 5 million. And unfortunately, they did not do what they could have done and what they should have done. When our people were being murdered every single day by the thousands and thousands and thousands. You know, we have a swastika in our community. Something happens to a Jew, the entire Jewish community is alarmed and everybody is ready to act and to do. But when little children, over 2 million children, were murdered by our enemies, not just the Germans, not just the Germans. My mother often talked about some of the other nationalities. If you can imagine that they were more cruel than the Germans, that they were more vicious and more violent and more filled with hatred. That's the reality. And we have to live that reality, not to be afraid, to have faith in Hashem, and not to be afraid to do the right thing, regardless of anything. Because at the end of the day, Hashem runs the world, no one else. No one else, only God. So we start our program, and this is a name that I have been familiar with for many, many years. There was a man by the name of Chiun Sugihara. And this individual, Japanese diplomat, who served as the vice consul of the Empire of Japan in Lithuania during the period of the Holocaust. This individual, I'm not going to go into the details, but this is about stories of individuals. It's about individuals who did what they could do to save the lives of fellow citizens of the world, in this case, Jews. Sugihara. How many people are familiar with that name? It's a picture we should have on our walls. These people, you know, one of the things we learn is if you save one life, it's as if you have saved the whole world. And Chiun Sugihara, he's responsible for thousands and thousands of people. And how did he do this? By issuing these certificates. He was just signing them and giving them out to as many Jews as he could. And these documents made it possible for individual Jews to get out and to go to safety. I remember when someone said to me when I was younger, you know, outside of Yad Vashem, there's a valley dedicated to the righteous. We're all familiar with it, and Sugihara's name is there. But it is so short. There are not a lot of names, because very, very few people really cared when the issue was the very survival of men, women, and children. And I want to call up, because we want to recognize today, all of us. We have here with us Mr. Fumio Hawaii, who is the Deputy Consul General of Japan. Would you please join us? And also, I want to call up somebody else, Mr. Benny Fishoff, who's going to join us. Mr. Fishoff is a survivor of the Shanghai Ghetto, and I'm going to ask the Consul General to say a few words. But we are here today because Sugihara was an example of what one can do if you only have the desire, if you only want to do. Because Sugihara disobeyed orders from his government. He didn't do exactly what his government wanted him to do, but he understood what human life was all about. And this person is responsible, it is estimated, over 6,000 people. What does 6,000 people translate in terms of the families and the families and the families? Now, one of the other names that has gotten a lot of attention, I think people are familiar with that name. One of the reasons I think for the world in general is because there was a film that was made about him, and people are familiar. The other person we just want to give recognition, and it's very interesting because the two people we've just mentioned in the past few minutes were both diplomats. They were part of the diplomatic corps. They were part of the government. And they took it upon themselves, they didn't always follow the rules, thank God. Because many times the government did not support what they were doing, but they did the right thing. And then we have somebody a little different. Someone by the name of Oskar Schindler, who is, in fact, last night I was going through, you can see there are 30 or 40 or 50 names on a page. This is a list of the actual people, the Jews that were saved by Oskar Schindler. And he was not a diplomat at all. In fact, he was friendly with the Nazis. And he was a fun-loving guy, having a good time. But something in his heart was touched. And in the end, he played such an important role in saving thousands of people. And there are people in this audience here, going back, who because of Oskar Schindler, they are alive, and of course the generations that come afterwards. And I mentioned to you earlier, and I didn't finish my remark, maybe it was a little difficult for me. I said, there's one person missing here for me. And it's very hard, because I see her. And that's my mother, who passed away literally just about a year ago. And my mother, in the beginning, never spoke about the Holocaust, but the last 10, 15, 20 years of her life never stopped talking about the Holocaust. Every single Shabbos, she would tell different stories about what she went through. And when you recognize, when you understand, and I'm speaking to all the students, the young people, the next generation, we have to remember, not just for the sake of remembering, because we have to recognize, as the Consul General said, I wish I could say to you that the world has changed. It's not the same world anymore. There's a recognition of what evil is. There's a recognition that murdering innocent civilians is something of the past, not the present. But unfortunately, we all know the reality. The Wall Street Journal just had a story 2 days ago based on a study that was done about anti-Semitism all over the world. 40%, 50% of people throughout the world say there was no Holocaust. It's not accurate, it's not true. This is the reality. And we know the situation in terms of the enemies of Israel, but it's not the enemies of Israel, ladies and gentlemen. It's the enemies of the Jewish people. There's something that people have against us. I haven't been able to figure it out because we don't bother anyone. We just want to live. We just want to be able to live. So we have to be aware. We have to be prepared to speak out and to stand up and to do the right thing regardless. And that is hopefully what I have tried to do. And I don't deserve any recognition for it, because when your parents go through what my parents went through and what the Jewish people went through, how can you not do it? How can you not stand up against anti-Semitism? So Oskar Schindler was one of those people.